Welcome to the Crystal Zinn podcast. I believe our bodies are a living map of the entire universe. All the answers reside within. Remember, you are sovereign, whole, and infinitely valuable. And the best gift we can give to the world is our own healing. Join me as we explore holistic tools, spiritual practices, and paradigms that are shifting the way people experience life, business, and relationships. I love to share education on the most recent medical research and cutting-edge technology on anatomy, neurology, trauma, development, and more to give us a foundation in understanding how to align, utilize, and upregulate our physical systems. Ultimately, this podcast is a witness and support to people on their journey of remembering, an inspiration for all of us to keep going, and a reminder that we are not alone. Welcome to our short cast today, our short podcast. The theme today is rebirth and the birth process as a metaphor for life and many things that we're going through in life. Specifically, the parts in life and in birth when we want to give up and we don't think we can do it anymore. So who better to have here than Elizabeth? Welcome.
Thank you.
If you remember, she was on the Crystal Zinn podcast before, and Elizabeth is a yoga teacher, a doula, and she teaches many things in the birth space, like for supporters, and she trains doulas, a birth daddy coach class, a daddy birth coach class, and things like that. So she's gonna share some of her wisdom that I asked her to share today on this subject. So stay tuned. We're going to tune in and then we will talk about a couple of these things. So if you've ever been in a place in your relationship, in your job, maybe in actual birth where you're like, this is just a lot, chronic illness, a lot of family things, and you just ever felt like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't. How long is this going to go on? We're going to kind of talk about some of those themes and give some support and some ideas and kind of zoom out and give you the perspective of what that means. So stay tuned. You'll want to hear this one. So if you're in a place where it's safe to do so, close your eyes. I'll invite the listeners to join us in a little so-hum meditation, connecting your hands to your heart. When you inhale, picture the word so and close your fingers, curl them in. And then when you exhale, in your mind's eye, say hum and let your fingers relax, open. Keep going, following the rhythm of your breath. Inhale, so. Exhale, hum. Relax your jaw and your tongue. Try to relax the muscles right at the front of your neck. Taking one more so hum, making an intention to do less on your inhale and even less on your exhale. And then when you feel complete, just blink your eyes open, come back to us. If you're watching this episode, join us in our fluffy chairs today instead of our typical recording place. Thank you. So I want to ask you a question right off the bat. When you are coaching mommies through their birth process, when is that moment, that common moment, or the most likely moment when they look at you and they say, oh no, I don't want to do this. I'm scared. Give me the epidural. I want off this roller coaster.
Yeah, it happens a lot in birth. That's the moment when we know we're in transition. Things are about to change and we're moving into what mamas usually feel a lot more pressure. They feel like they can't do it. And that's like right about when they're about to give birth. is right when they're about to put in the flag, like, give me the epidural. So yeah, that's the moment of like, just get through this and baby will be here soon.
So it's almost like the point of no return too, right? Because I've heard that too. A lot of times, especially if a mom is doing an unmedicated birth, when she gets to that point where she's like, give me the epidural, a lot of times the doctor, the midwife, or the doula will be like, you can't have it now.
Yeah, there's a place in birth where it's like, now or never. You get it right now or you do it without, right? And usually when we're in this transition stage around, like, if we're dilated to like an 8, then it's probably like not the best time to get an epidural. The reason being is because like things are going to start moving pretty quickly, and it's not ideal to have like sitting still getting the epidural. It's just like really hard and challenging. So
why do you think that that's the moment, like when they've been breathing with you and moving and just like leaning into this process the whole time? Why is it at that precipice right before the baby comes that the mamas feel that?
Yeah, fear. It's like the contractions get longer. They go to like 60 to 90 minutes. And the pressure becomes really like intense. You're feeling like, usually this is like when mom feels like she has to go to the bathroom. And it's just like, wow, this is, lots of things are shifting. And the most important thing is to like stay with the breath. That's like the thing that keeps us grounded, is like the most powerful thing is the breath. Like if you're trying to do an unmedicated birth, the breath is the most important thing, like that anchor. Because, and not to be afraid of the pain. I think it's like really important because we fear pain sometimes. We fear it and we like tense up and we resist it. But we want to try and do the opposite, where it's like the pain is there to help us. It's bringing baby. Like if we didn't have that pain, we would be pregnant forever. Thank God we're not pregnant forever. So, but because of that pain, it's able to like contract baby and get baby here in this realm. And so
it serves a purpose.
It serves
That's
a
so
purpose.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What do you say to them? You have such a beautiful way of saying things. Like, what do you say when they look at you and they're like, help?
It's really important to make direct eye contact. Like, get them to look at you and maybe hold them and look them straight in the eye and say, you can do this. You are doing this and you are doing amazing. Like, get them like to look at you, because when we're in pain and we start going into this spiral of like the thoughts, I like to call it the monkey chatter brain, and we get lost in it, and that intensifies the fear. And we go through this like domino thing of like, no, I can't do this. And we start to doubt our power. And we're just like, I want out. And it's like, well, leaning into it, like that is the way we're going to get through it, is like breathing into it and learning to soften into it, like surrender. One of the things that I say is like, just melt into the bed. Just soften every part of your body and like surrender into the surge, and let it work for you instead of resisting it and running away from it and being afraid of it, because it is us. It is part of us. That surge is part of us. And it's not there to hurt us. It's there to birth this experience, this baby, and also ourselves. So, they say that when a baby is born, a mother is born too. And it's like on the other side of birth, we look at ourselves so differently. It's like, wow, that baby was inside me. My body created this baby. And it's just like this profound thing of like, I did that.
Yeah, and we all know the other side is so beautiful and amazing and expansive and transformative. But I love that so much, because we often talk about how that is such a direct and beautiful metaphor for life. And it's meant to be. That's how life is set up. It gives us these things to mirror to us, these processes, so we can understand them. And I think that is so beautiful because a couple years ago, I studied Stan Groff a lot, and he gives us the 4 stages of birth for the purpose of giving us a metaphor for life, for creativity, for lifetime cycles and monthly cycles and daily cycles. And so he separates birth into 4 stages, which may or may not be the same thing we do in actual doula work, but he says the first stage is comfort. Mm-hmm. And so it's actually when all your needs are provided for. And so it's when you're in the mama's belly and there's plenty of room and you're getting fed by the umbilical cord, and it's just so wonderful, and you're held and everything's provided and you just feel so good, comfortable. And then the second stage is when things get really uncomfortable. They get really squishy and there's nowhere to go, and proverbially there's like no light at the end of the tunnel, because it's just like all of a sudden the baby's big and cramped and, maybe restricted by the umbilical cord. They have a lot more of their senses, so noises are loud, the mama's uncomfortable, they may be feeling some stress and things. And he says stage 2 is the most difficult stage, actually, because you have all this pent up energy and you have all this uncomfortability and this stuckness feeling with no outlet, with no light at the end of the tunnel. And so he says when you're in this stage in life, it's really helpful to draw that metaphor and just label it and say these are stages that continue to flow. And so the fact that I'm feeling stuck right now means that stage 3 is near, and stage 3 is the active stage where there's light at the end of the tunnel, the mama dilates, and all of a sudden the baby has a job and the mama has a job, and then they work together. And stage 3 is the most difficult, physical part of his metaphor, because it's like where all the work happens and the blood, sweat, and tears, and the baby's moving and the mama's moving, but it's emotionally a little bit easier because there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And so if you were to draw the analogy to a divorce or something, the most difficult emotional part that I know from living something like that, and my friends who've gone through something like that, is the part where they're stuck and they don't know what to do and there's no answer, and it's so miserable and difficult, and they think they're going to die and there's no way out. And even though the next stage, once they've made a decision to work it out or get divorced in this example, it's very hard, right? And you go through a lot, but you have a goal, you have a direction, and that gives a better sense of purpose. And then obviously stage 4 is the birth. It's the transformation. It's the new life. And then he says it immediately starts again, because as soon as you have your new life, it's not very long until you're comfortable, then you get stuck, and then you have to work your way out. So I love that metaphor as well. And it seems like what we're talking about here is mostly stage 2, because I find that with people, clients, friends, that's the part where people need, what you said, to be grabbed by the shoulders and looked in the eyes and be like, you're not alone. You can do this. You are doing this. We are going to do this. And that's the part where I think people need so much support and this message of hope. So I'm wondering, and we're talking about this too because we've themed our retreat to Italy with Yumi and Rachel on this theme. So yeah, we're going to kind of take them through that during the week and speak to these stages. But I'm wondering if you feel called to answer this question, that when in your life have you been in stage 2, and how have you dealt with it? What are supportive things? And they may be the same things in the birth room, but they may be different things in real life that have helped you get through it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely there's been so many rebirth process. I've been through divorce. I was a young mom too, and so I think I got pregnant very young, and that was I feel that's probably why my life, birth is such a big part of my life, because it was such a big part of my evolution in this life. I started life very young. I started the mother realm very young. And I was so like inspired by my own birth experience and my power. And I had a birth doula with every single birth that I had. I have 3 babies. And that was my stomach. And I was just so like, wow, I am so amazing to see myself. And it was really hard for me to be, let's just be real, I was a teen mom and I grew up very religious, and it was very looked down upon, me being pregnant. And that was really hard for me. Like, I chose that path for myself, and to be looked at from others' eyes in this way of like shame was really hard. And I had to hold my head up really high and be like, this is what I'm going through, this is my experience, this is what I'm choosing, and I know it's not going to be easy, but this is my path. And I am so grateful that I had the support around me. But it was definitely like that like rebirth process of like, I am stepping into this and I'm scared and I don't know, and there was lots of fear. And I'm so grateful I had a birth doula that was like a coach. Like, every birth doula is very different with the way that they guide births. And so like matching energetically, like within each chapter of your life, it might be a different birth doula. For me, when I was young, I needed that like coach energy where she was just like in my face, like, you have got this, you're so strong, like super big energy.
Yeah.
And I needed that. And she was just so amazing at like guiding me through this birth experience. And I remember there was a moment where I was like, I don't want to do this. I changed my mind. Like, I can't do this. And she looked me in the eye and she was like, honey, you have to. And you are doing it. Like, there's no turning back. Like, you're in it. And it was just like this moment of like, oh my gosh. But like, the metaphor of life is like, there's so many times in our lives where we go through these things where like, I don't know if I am actually capable of doing this. Like, I think I want to give up. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. And it's like, that's the moment where we just have to remind ourselves, I can do this. I am strong. I am capable. And on the other side of this pain and this fear is the evolution of the next version of myself. Like, it is going to be hard. Labor is hard. That's why they call it labor. And that's why we're so amazing, like women. It's because we're so strong and we can do this birth experience and we can create.
Have you been looking for the adventure of a lifetime? Join me, Elizabeth, and Rachel this June in stunning Sardinia, Italy for a yoga and adventure retreat. My heart has been calling me to this part of the world for a really long time. Connect with your mind, body, and spirit while exploring breathtaking landscapes, rock climbing, boating trips, and more. Early bird pricing is available until January 31st, 2025. Email me, visit my website, or check out my Instagram at Crystals and Yoga for more details. Let's make magic together in Sardinia.
So, yeah, not giving up, writing yourself.
Yeah.
Like, in the birth world, I tell my clients, like, write yourself mantras and post them around your house, like little sticky notes. I'm a very visual person, so like for me, reading things that I need to hear like helps me.
That's a great one. And I also like that you brought up that you might need a different doula depending on which birth, like what you're birthing, which is such a beautiful metaphor for life too, because I have needed different coaches, friends, support at different stages. And that is a really huge piece of advice, that is to go out and get that. Get a mentor, get a life coach, get a life doula.
Get a life doula, yeah.
And make sure it matches the energy of what you need, because a lot of times we can placate ourselves like back into our little holes, or like, I mean, when you're actually pregnant, your doula was right. Like, honey, you are doing this. But in life, we can kind of like be pregnant for a long time, right? And kind of avoid that transformational process. So I feel like we have some more leeway, and I've been guilty of trying to birth things too quickly or too slowly or in too much fear. And in life, that's been a part of my learning experience too, is to get to know myself and what is the natural flow and surrendering to that, which it sounds like your whole learning in life was through the portal of birth, which is so beautiful and powerful. And so now you can take those lessons into your life, where a lot of us are kind of applying it backwards, right? Like we're trying to learn these things and then we go through a birth process, if ever. Some of us don't, a lot later.
Yeah.
And use it as a metaphor. So it's really cool. I like the idea of support. I like the idea of just putting on your big girl panties and being like, we're doing this, and trusting in that transformation later. And also just like knowing that it's going to keep coming.
Yeah. And it's like the process of life, like the ebb and flow of this experience, being a human. There's always going to be challenges. It's not like life isn't always going to be easy. There will be moments of ease, you know, but there's going to be really challenging times. And it's in that fire and that like that moment where you're like, I don't physically think I can get through this. Just know that you won't be pregnant forever. And you have to kind of train your brain like that. Like, this is a hard time that I'm going through, but I'm going to guide myself through this. And if I don't feel like I have the tools that I need, I'm going to seek out the tools. Whether it's a therapist that is like a really great therapist that you match with, whether it's a life coach, a friend that gives you energy and like doesn't take from you, but actually gives you like sound advice, family member, whatever. Like, it's important for you to like get the tools that you need to support yourself through the transitions of your life, you know.
Well, that's good advice. I wonder if you would be willing to take us through, because this is something I've learned through your example really well, that I've enjoyed learning from you, is kind of watching you go through all of those stages as a birth doula, but also in life. And so I'm wondering if you could take us through so that we can draw metaphors. So I'll encourage the listeners to draw metaphors through all these stages as you go from like meeting your client through that process, and draw the metaphors to like life, but also how we're going to take them through that on our retreat.
Yeah.
Right? So I loved hearing when we were during our planning meeting the other night, when you were like, we have a consultation and that is like this in life. And so at the beginning of the retreat, we're going to take you through the process. And I guess I want to say the reason I loved hearing it so much was, one, because if you want to come on our retreat with us, there's a couple spots left, but the women who are coming on the retreat will get this sort of like guided plan or map that they can take home with them and apply, like in all these areas, like parenting, relationships, jobs. And there were so many pieces of it that I feel like I have yet to incorporate in my life. And now I have all these great ideas of how to support myself through those stages that I haven't done before.
Yeah, I love that. I wish I had it in front of me so I could remember.
You'll just have to go chronologically.
Okay, so walk me through it.
Okay, so when we started, it was like, we are welcoming the women in our retreat, or like in Stan Graf's model, what we would do is we would start at stage 1, where everything is comfortable and wonderful. And you were like, well, we welcome and we have a consultation, we set intentions. So a lot of times when we're in life and we feel really good, or we have some space, or maybe your babies go to school for the first time and you're like, wow, I'm comfortable, what do I do, right? You start to create or set an intention first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the process of being a birth doula, I guess, and connecting with my client is the consultation, like connecting with them, kind of talking to them about all of the things, like, what is your vision for your birth? What is your intention? Like, what kind of birth do you want? And what do you want from a doula, you know, and kind of getting an idea of like what the expectation is moving forward, to set that like foundation for the birth experience. So I have like an interview that I do with my clients, and I ask them questions, and we create a birth plan. And I have a whole list of things that I go through because there's a lot of things we don't even think about. It's like a lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. I have no idea. You know, and a lot of times the mom hasn't thought about it and she hasn't talked to her partner about it. So it's like that communication is just not even there because she hasn't had that conversation with herself yet. So it like lays everything on the table and it gets like this clear understanding of like, oh, like asking the questions. What do I want this to be like?
Yeah.
You know?
I love that so much because it's like when we take the women through it, it's like you are coaching them through that relationship with themselves. It sounds like education, self-conversation and knowledge, and planning.
Planning, yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
And then what do you do?
Okay, it's the next thing on the
Then the next stage. So we make the birth plan, like set the intentions. And the reason why I love this is because when I have space in my life, I'm gonna be there. Like in my mind, I'm gonna be in a consultation with Elizabeth and I'm gonna be like, what are my options? What do I feel? What do I want? How do I want this to go? And then I think the discomfort kind of comes, right? When they get into the place where they're like, I am feeling some pain. You know, the baby is moving. I do have to go in and like get my ROGAM shot and my sugar test. And like, it's part of the process and you support them with a lot of tools there I didn't know about, right?
Yeah. So as a doula, like I'm on as from the moment they book me. So let's say we did that consultation. I'm like, we want to hire you as our birth doula. They hire me as their birth doula. I am on call from the moment they hire me till postnatal after they have baby. And I'm there to answer all the questions. So a lot of times after things start changing, baby starts growing, there's different things, questions that come up. And I'm there to answer the questions. Like, okay, this is normal. This is part of the birth experience. Nothing's wrong. But if you know, like guiding them through different things, and then giving them options. So like I'm also a prenatal yoga instructor. So there's a lot of poses we can do to help alleviate certain pains. Or, you know, a lot of times we get like Charlie horses in the middle of the night and it's like, what in the world? Why? It's like wakes you up. It's so painful. And there's things you can do like magnesium salt baths and magnesium cream that you can put on after you take your bath. Simple little things that can make a world of a difference, you know, like, so I like to call it as like tools in your toolbox for your birth experience. Just like education is power, and it's great to have those resources and not to feel alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To me, that's like life. Like to me, that part of you being a doula and coach through that is like the majority of pregnancy, right? And I don't know about in your life, but in my life, that seems like in a quantity way, like just the quantity of time, that seems to be like the space where I spend the most time, right? Where we're like figuring things out, or like something happens at home and we're like, how do you get insurance for your kid who's driving? And it, you know what I mean? It's just that whole like part of life where you're trying to get help and you're trying to get your questions answered, and you're going to yoga, or you're trying to, you know, hone in on a diet, or I don't know, heal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, what part of life do you think that is? That for me seems like the majority.
Yeah.
Like in our retreat, I think that's going to be where we're climbing or kayaking, or people are getting scared, or they don't know where to get their food. Or I mean, like they're working through the majority of like just this new process.
Well, even just like going on a retreat, I was talking to a student yesterday, and he's been following me on social media, and he was like, he came to my class just so he could ask me questions about the retreat. He was like, and I, you know, we've been friends on social media. I've seen him in the yoga community, but he like literally came to the class specifically so he could just ask me questions afterwards, because he was like, I have so many questions for you. And he was like, I feel like I'm terrified to go on a retreat with a bunch of strangers. So walk me through like the process of like what that would look like, and how, you know, like, is everyone else feeling the same way? Or do they just like feel normal about like hanging out with people that they've never met? And I was like, that's a great question because it's like, I feel like this can, like, stepping into a space where you're like, I don't know anyone that's coming. Maybe you know a couple of people, but it's like, this is a group of people that I don't know. I don't know I've never traveled to another country. There's a lot of like questions. Like, I have never done this before. And even if I have traveled to another country, this is a new experience. Even if I have had babies, this pregnancy is a new experience. Every pregnancy is different, right? And so it's like trusting the process and like leaning into that like discomfort of like with curiosity. And like, I am going to, like, everyone has their own reasons for why they're coming on this retreat, right? And it's just like having that intention of like, why am I here? Asking yourself, like, what is it that I want from this experience? And also like leaning into the discomfort. So like the rock climbing part of it, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like terrified of heights. Like, this is part of me stepping into like my fear. Like, I'm afraid of this, but I know that I'm going to feel like a bad-a after I do this. And I have that, like, I freaking did that.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Because you trust the birth process. Like, you know, you've done it enough times.
Yeah.
It cycles.
Yeah.
When you're talking about it, I'm reminded, and what I wanted to share is the really helpful things I think in this stage are like people who have either gone through it before you and you can ask for advice, or friends that are going through it with you.
Yeah.
Like when my daughter's graduating and I'm trying to get her to college, I'm asking everybody who's doing the same thing as me or who just did it. And I've watched you do the same thing. And so when you're in these places like stage 2 in life, asking support, I love that guy did that. Because that's so perfect. He's like, is everyone else? Can I talk to other people? Right? And so you get talking to each other. You ask what it's going to look like. Yeah, like I think that's a place where there's so much just support to be had, but you have to communicate. You have to be out there. You have to trust yourself, right? Because what if your clients, and I'm sure this has happened to you, get scared and just like kind of disappear?
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
So this happens, and so I do a class called the Daddy Birth Coach class. So when someone hires me, after the consultation, after the birth plan session is created, I will create a birth plan for them. And then we do a thing called the Daddy Birth Coach class, and it really just gets the couple to talk and communicate and kind of role play kind of the potential scenarios. Like, I walk them through the whole birth experience. Like, okay, let's say it's in the middle of the night and you start having these contractions that are like very different, and you're like, these are strong. I'm having to like slow down and breathe through them. That's when, you know, like, call me right away. It's time for me to check in with you. Then I'll say, okay, next is like, well, we're gonna start to monitor your contractions. And if if the contraction app is like, okay, these are consistent patterns for an hour, it's time to go to the hospital. We'll go to the hospital if you're 3 centimeters or more. Like, I walk them through the whole process of like, okay, now we're at the hospital. Now these are things that are picking up. These are things we can start doing in this scenario. So giving them tools. I like to say, it's just like giving the partner tools so that he can actually be a part of this experience, this union of two. And it's just like, it gives him this, like, I have purpose and I know how I can support. And it's all about communication. So in this class, I actually ask the husband, I used to ask the wife, like, or the woman, like, when you're not feeling good, how do you respond to pain? Like, what's your go-to? Like, what makes you feel better, first of all? And then, like, what is kind of like the things that you like to do? Like, do you go inward? Do you need to be around people? Do you like to be touched and massaged? Do you like to like retreat and not be touched? And I ask the husband now because it's like, she always looks at him like, I don't know, what do I So I'll ask the husband first, and then I'll look at her and be like, is that right? And so the reason why I ask these questions is because, one, it helps me as a birth doula to know what type of client I'm working with and how I can support her. And so let's say the mom is like, okay, the way that she responds to pain is she likes to go take a bath. Then I know she like feels safe in water. And so that's going to be part of our birth experience, is like, all right, so maybe we should fix a bath to calm your nervous system. Or maybe she likes to go for a walk. She likes movement. We're going to go for a walk in the hospital, walk around the hallway. She likes to be massaged. And I always ask, like, deep tissue massage or soft massage? Because some people like me, I don't like soft touches like that. I'm just like, ugh. And some people are like, yes, please, soft massage. You know, like we were just talking about. She gets really relaxed with soft touch. And it's like every person is different how they respond to pain. So like understanding that and helping my clients work through, like, because sometimes they don't even know their own coping skills. So like kind of mirroring that, or having this like place where they can talk about it and reflect on their own inner personality just helps them to know like, oh, okay, so when I'm in pain, when I go into this experience, these are the things that I can actually do to support myself. And these are the things my partner can do to help support me. And it's all about communication. So circling back to the like, what happens when a mother goes inward, like sometimes we do when we're scared, we kind of like dissociate. And we like fade within ourselves because we feel so overwhelmed that we just kind of shut down. And it's in those moments where when we can see that, and as birth doula, when I see my client going inward like that, it's just like redirecting the brain, like bringing them back to surface. And whatever that looks like, that can be like just making them laugh, you know, having like, and I'll even say like download some Netflix, like something that makes you laugh, because it like really just, we want to bring that like joy to the space, to the birth space. And like, because it is a joyful experience, but sometimes we get so like tunnel vision where we're so scared and we get like, this is too much, I can't see the joy around me because I'm so overwhelmed. But then there's so much beauty that's happening in this moment. And so I think that's like really important. Like the metaphor of life is like, sometimes we're going through really hard things. We can get so stuck in that like, this is so hard and I can't, and then we get into like these patterns of like maybe depression or isolation where we don't reach out and talk. We don't know how to because it's so overwhelming. But it's like we have to redirect our mind and be like, you know what is happening around me though? Like there's so much beauty, even still in the pain, right? And even though I'm afraid, I'm still taking it one step at a time. And we say like in the birth world, one contraction at a time. Let's just get through this one contraction. We're just going to breathe through it and then we'll rest. And it's like that ebb and flow. It's like I'm here with this contraction. It's not going to last forever. And then it subsides and it's like, oh, breathe, rest. Yeah. So like in life, and I told Elia, my daughter, this the other day, like, it's so beautiful outside. And I was like, it's so interesting in Utah because it's like so cold some days and so gloomy. And it's like I have to remind myself, like, it's not going to be gloomy forever.
It can't be.
and there's going to be, like, beautiful spring days like today. And so you just have to remind yourself, like, this too shall pass. And on the other side of this day, like, on the other side of these clouds is the sun. And it's going to be beautiful tomorrow. It's the same thing with, like the monkey chatter in the mind. Some days our brain is just, like, overwhelmed with like fear and all the things that we have our own shadows, everyone does, right? But it's like, it's not going to last forever. Like right now I feel maybe I'm going through, I call them dip days, where it's like, I'm going through a really hard time today, but I have to train my brain to know like, tomorrow might be very different. The sun might be shining. I might feel very different. My mind might be clearer. You know, if you have chronic pain or whatever, like some people have their challenges with whatever, it's like tomorrow might be different. So just kind of redirecting the mind.
I love that. I had like a couple thoughts because like the biggest one is being able to doula yourself or if you have a partner in your life, and you can kind of reframe for that doula coach relationship and communication to support each other through life. We all desire that and need that. We weren't meant to be alone. But sometimes we have that in our life and sometimes we don't. And so when we don't, to kind of take on that dual role for yourself and coach yourself through it. And I'll tie it together. Okay, well done.
Okay.
But if you don't have that in your life, you can coach yourself through it. And so either way, just cultivating, like you said, that hope, that softness, that flow of mind where you have trust to get yourself through those things. And I just love that metaphor in every way. It may be a family member, it may be a friend, it may be yourself, but to doula yourself through it. And that's what I love most about your doula training was, I was like, this is enhancing me in every area of my life, in my profession, in my personality, for myself and for others to show up in that way and increase communication and options. And I love that. And it also reminded me of how well you've curated the retreat even. So taking everyone through the birth metaphor is our goal for the Rebirth Italy retreat, but those places where you've sent out extensive questionnaires. So we know what people are going to need. We have the WhatsApp, right? And we've put in lots of things where it's like, if you're, lost in the airport, here's how you communicate. When you get here, this is what we're doing. And just kind of having that thought through process, which is a lot like the birth process. And I love the tool belt thing because, it's just chock full of tools. That's our point, right? The meditation, the self-awareness, the journaling, and many others that we just are filling these women up with as we've learned to fill ourselves up for those times. And I love this discussion. I love the metaphors. I hope it sparked some interest either in our retreat or doula work or self-care or just ideas for how people can draw that more supportive and beautiful and leaning into all the experiences of life as opposed to like
resisting.
Yeah, just kind of a resistance or contrasty way of moving through life, but more of how do I accept this? Yeah. Accept the grief, accept the stages, lean into it and see the purpose of all the stages. And of course, the one stage we didn't really touch on yet, which it will just kind of sum up with this, is that transformation moment, right? It's one of 4 stages and it will keep flowing. So it's not like we want to take that end goal and say, everything is a means to the end, because it should all be, in its own means. We should love every stage of it. And the remembrance of that 4th stage and that transformation and new life is very enticing and very fulfilling and very transformational. And even though it will keep cycling and keep coming, I do love that we will kind of end the retreat in this culmination. And I really love leaning into those moments as well. Like the play hard moments, like the enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. The last day of our retreat is going to be a pretty fun one.
Yeah. And that's like, when you're there, and that's usually when I see the photos from you or just like the messages of like mama and baby and dad are just holding each other and it was all worth it. And so yeah, I love that. Any final thoughts on our metaphor? I'm just fully leaning into this metaphor and it's enhanced my life in so many ways.
Yeah, it's the process of shedding and moving forward. And if we never do, then will we ever grow and become our fullest, most awesome self? Like we can get stuck in a version of ourselves and never choose to step into our fullest potential. And it's not easy. It's so challenging. Like the most challenging times in my life have been the most pivotal. They've been the most transformative. And it's because of those moments of like raw, like just so hard moments that I am who I am today. And I see with a different perspective, like I'm not the same person. I am, but I'm not. And that's part of life. And life is to be lived and experienced. The duality. We feel the depth of our pain, but we also can feel bliss, and we can also feel the like most boring moments. Like when you're pregnant, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, is this ever gonna end? Like I'm just like, wait, counting down the moment, you know what I mean? And there's moments in life where you're like, what is happening? Nothing. Nothing's happening. I feel like I'm just waiting, you know, and it's like, that's part of life, right? Is that moment of like just waiting and being patient. And, but also there's the movement stuff, like, well, if you want to like start picking up this labor, there's some movement things we can do. And so like being proactive with your own experience, you know, is part of it. So.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much. As always, we'll tag all of the things so you can get a hold of us, travelingyogateacher.com with 2 L's in traveling, website, and on Instagram, the same thing with Crystal Zinn. And yeah, I'm going to launch this right away. So everything you're hearing here today is in real time. So reach out if you have questions or thoughts and tell us what you think about the rebirth metaphor and when things have been in different stages in your life. I'd love to hear.
Namaste.
Thank you for listening. Connect with me on Instagram at Crystal Zinn Yoga. Subscribe on my website at crystalzinnyoga.com to receive tools and practices for your holistic journey and to be the first to know about offerings, workshops, trainings, and retreats. We live in powerful times that require courage, bravery, compassion, authenticity, community, and grounding. You're not alone. Check out my free content, classes, and meditations on YouTube under Crystal Zinn Yoga, and have a beautiful day. Sat Nam.